Good afternoon, friends. So, we have been looking at prefabricated construction. We saw some of the places where you can actually see precast construction, like we told about the drain covers, which is very common in India. And of late, you'll also find that many of the bridges are also being constructed under using this prefabricated or precast techniques. The biggest advantage is the speed of construction. The rate at which you can complete your job is so much higher than what is possible when you do it using the traditional methods. So that 30-story building what you saw is actually one of our chancellor's favorite examples also whenever he speaks about what civil engineers can do. So when you look at any of the construction which is repetitive, immediately you can say that you can try to precast it. For instance, in the industry where I was, we have a structure called stacker. We have a area designated as stockpile where they store coal or some other material in very large quantities, and sometimes it will be running to the order of a few hundred meters also, 200 meters, 300 meters. So very critical cases, even 600 meters it can go, the length of the stockpile. So when you are having it, the drain also will be so long that you will not be able to actually, it will be very deep, it will be very long, and it is one of the things which is ideal for precasting because so many repetitive units are there. Okay, so here what happens is, one of the things which is very critical in precast units is the joint. Okay, so joint, and the other thing is the way you dimension it. If you are going to bring a slightly longer beam, then what can it can rest upon? What is it likely going to happen? It may not match into that groove which you have made for it, or you are going to go for you are going to be in trouble. Okay, so these are some of the benefits which we saw about precast units. First and foremost, the material which you use is of much higher quality than what it is used in the what you cast inside. Okay, because the control is so much more. You can steam cure it, you can cure it under very special conditions. You can apply curing compounds more easily than when you do it in site. So the benefits are very many. The finish is also much superior when you use the precast units, because those are all done under a factory sort of an environment. That's the biggest thing. And when you come to the construction site, if you look at the near Anna Auditorium, there's one construction going on, right? You will see a lot of shuttering material being stored. And if suppose had this been using the cast in situ concrete, it's a site mixed concrete, a lot of coarse aggregate, fine aggregate and cement would have also been stored. As of now, they are only storing shuttering and reinforcement. Okay, so all this space is clearly eliminated. Okay, then also you can have very fast progress in the site when you use precast construction. So precast is actually a subset of prefabrication. The line is very thin. Is that bridge which I showed in the last class precast or is it prefabricated? It's a very difficult question to answer. But what is the difference between precasting and prefabrication? Normally, if you are going to have the entire unit done in a different place, that is called as prefabrication. Typically what is happening nowadays is, in Madurai only I think they are having it, but Sivakasi has a group of hotels called Bell. So in Sivakasi, their hotel itself, they have very nice suites which are little more expensive than the others, which are inside containers. That cargo containers what you see being transported on trucks have been made into dwelling units. That will be like a room, bathroom, your whatever room, like bedroom for your hotel room, is done inside a container. They just make it inside a container, and then they have kept it in the garden. It looks very nice. It is very attractive also. In fact, yesterday when I was going through some last class, when I was going through some videos, some of the videos that came out were the units which are done, dwellings which are done in inside a container. The entire house is inside a container. Only when they walk outside the house and show you, you will understand that it is actually been done inside a container. But it looks very nice, it looks very homely, all that, there is no problem. So what is the benefit there? If I want to conduct a conference, I can hire 10 or 15 such containers for the top people, transport it much before, and housing is done. If suppose you look at any disasters taking place, if you are having such units, you just have to transport the units and it is done. So this is one sort of way of looking at it. But also please remember, all those of you who are going to go into a construction site is going to live inside a container. Did you know that? Most of the site offices are inside a container. Okay, I still remember when I went to Jamshedpur as part of my company's requirement to site, we were fortunately from the design team. So we are one step above the others. So they gave us an air conditioned container. Then what happened was our work got over. Do you know what they did? They simply unplugged the power supply for air conditioner. After that it became like a baking oven. They really did it to us. Okay, they told bye bye. We were not wanting to vacate. We thought, okay, we'll be inside for a little more time. We'll learn something more. They wanted to send us out. They did it. But what the main point, what it is that this is not some. This is something which is very old, and this is something which you are also going to come across. Okay. One of the things is the joints are very. They have very close tolerance. Just close the door, please. So, what do we mean by tolerance? Have you heard the term tolerance? Sorry? It is the maximum deviation from a given dimension which you mark. Okay. Normally, what they will do is they will give a dimension 1 meter within bracket plus or minus 0.01. It means your whatever you are doing should be at least should be exactly 1 meter, but how much deviation you can accept? 1 centimeter. Of course, 1 centimeter is a very large tolerance. Usually, you will also see this tolerance in bolt holes. Have you seen any bolts? You know what is a bolt? It's nothing but a screw which you do. Have you seen screws being used in construction? If you look at a steel structure, go to the railway station. The newer railway station will have screws. Those are called bolts. Okay, you call them bolts. You'll have a threaded portion, and then you'll have a other bolt that goes on top of that. In the olden days, they used to use what are known as rivets, but nowadays nobody uses rivets, at least not in a construction site. What is a rivet? They used to take a piece of steel, and then they used to apply hydraulic pressure on it. The pressure was so great that the metal will flow. The metal will actually flow and take the shape of the mold, which will be a nice spherical shape. Okay, so that one it will hold the two pieces of metal very tightly. The same thing is achieved today with what is known as high yield strength friction grip bolts. Anyway, why am I telling you this? Whenever you make a bolt hole, the bolt diameter will be say 16. You will have to use a 18 dia bolt hole. Then they will say you can have a tolerance of 0.0001 or 2 mm on the positive side or the negative side. Anything lower than that, that means you are not going to be able to fit your bolt in. Okay. So this is what we mean by tolerance. In any precast construction, tolerance is very important. Okay. So actually, lot of explanation is there in British Standard 5506. 5606. British Standard 5606 that deals with all these tolerances. Basically, what are the factors that determine the tolerance of your precast units? First and foremost, the cladding which you use determines the tolerance. What is meant by cladding? Cladding is nothing like the dress or whatever you put on top of the building. Okay, you can put glass cladding. Nowadays you see, many of the buildings, they just look like a sheet of glass. Most of the office building, computer, IT things. So those are all nothing but that is what we call as cladding. The support of the cladding will always be depending on the requirement of the cladding. Okay, how much can you bend a glass bit? How much can a glass bit move? A sheet of glass, how much can we make a sheet of glass move? How many millimeters? How much can we twist it? I am having a glass, it's very less, it's negligible. So if you are having glass, it means that compulsorily you cannot allow the support of the glass to move. Okay, so that is what we mean by the tolerance is depending on the cladding. How much you can make a difference? You cannot actually make any difference. It's very tight fit. Then there is a lot of trouble when you set out. Okay, how many of you have tried to work with you would all had first year workshop, right? First year workshop. Oh, okay, when we used to do engineering first year, we used to do sheet metal works. Okay, we will have to make what was called as a dovetail joint. So if suppose you are not having the parts correctly, you will find that it won't fit at all, or there will be a gap. Okay, both of them is not acceptable. But if you are going to have exactly the same dimension, you will find that you are not going to easily fix it. Have you tried to fix two things which are exactly the same dimensions, one which goes into the other? See, for example, you see that projector over there. There is one element that is sliding, right? Look up there. Yeah. Can you see the middle rod? It has screw which will allow the projector to move up or down. Now just imagine if the outer cylinder is having say 1 centimeter gap as the clear opening, and the one inside is also 1 centimeter exactly. Will it be easy to make it go in and out? Both are exactly 1 centimeters. You will find it is a little difficult to keep it. In the same way, even in your construction site, if you are going to have two elements which are exactly the same dimension, it will be very difficult to make it sit in position. Okay, so especially just imagine you are carrying a heavy concrete beam. It is going to exactly be brought into position in a place where some screws are going to be used to attach it. Suppose everything is exactly like the same micrometer, everything dimension is there, but the reading was taken in the morning at 5 a.m. when the temperature was say around 18 degrees Celsius. However, in the site it is 27 degrees Celsius. Do you think they will be able to make it match exactly? Both of the elements would have expanded or contracted in a different way to the extent that you will not be able to make it set correctly. So setting out works will become difficult. So this is what we also call as construction difficulties. And another very important thing which they do is they give a camber. What is this camber? It's an intentional upward slope which is given to beam elements. Okay, usually for railway tracks on the bridges especially. Okay, they'll have a camber so that when you keep the unit on the supports, when it takes the deflected shape, the upward deflection will cancel any of the downward deflection. See, when you take a piece of paper, the piece of paper always has a cup shape, right? Suppose I am making the paper have a upward convex surface and I am keeping it, because when the natural convex shape is trying to be achieved, it becomes a straight line. Okay, this is called camber. Okay, you intentionally give a opposite direction deflection. Okay, so you will all these things determine how the connections are going to be finally done. Finally, this is the deflection due to load. Because of the weight of the element itself, the element will deflect. Okay, so whether when you go and keep it, is it going to deflect to such a level that it is going to have a misfit? All these are things which you probably need to think about before you take a precast job. Okay, so these are some of the places where the precast element can go. It can go to the foundation, it can go to beams, it can go to almost so many other places. This is sorry. Okay. So so this is what is being constructed also. So these are pictures which I showed you earlier. Sometimes what happens is we are having these elements. This is a steel structure. However, I have seen also industrial structures having precast elements for the column as well as the truss. Okay, they form a portal, and it is also being done successfully. Okay, so that it need this also you can call it as if it is done, it can also be done in concrete. Okay, so till now, do you have any points to raise, or would you like to have anything clarified on what we have seen till now? Fine. So if you look at this one here, what happens? What happens here is, I don't know if suppose the diagram is very clear. Now when you are looking at this element, if suppose you are precasting this entire house or whatever, you will find that if you are going to you have to keep this dimension as more critical, and the other, like the level at which you are having the element placed. See this, oops, yes, see now this dimension is considered to be more critical. Okay, because if you are going to change anything on this dimension, you are going to find that the entire building is going to go off the of the level. So when this goes at a different height, the corresponding element which is on the other side may not come to the same level. So you are going to find that it is going to have a much greater impact on the way the structure is going to get finished. Okay. On the other hand, you will find that this element is right at the bottom. This is just exactly at the bottom. So this may not be as critical as the one which we look at when we go to the top floors. Okay. Same thing occurs here. So you will find that this dimension is less critical because there is a lot of gap in this joint. There is sufficient gap in this joint. So much so that if this becomes slightly longer, or if it is going to become slightly shorter, because it is having sufficient bearing surface is also sufficient, as well as there is a gap. So if this element slightly becomes more, it is not going to affect the end performance. Okay, what is going to happen at the end? It's not going to get affected at all. Now we have a look at this. See, this is a slab element. When you are precasting, you can make these holes. You know what people do with these holes? They can do two things. All your wiring, they may take it through this. They may even take your air conditioning, that pipes, through these holes. Other thing what happens is, the elements dead weight or the self weight is getting reduced. Self weight of the element is getting reduced. The reason the self weight is getting reduced is because there is no element in the middle. But because there is no material, do you think this is becoming weaker? Will this element be weaker because it's having these holes? Okay, I'll give you, I will not trouble you too much. Here what happens is, the weight is becoming lesser, okay, but you will find that the deflection will not be much because of two reasons. One, because of a property called I, and the second because of the reduction in self weight. You will learn about something called castellated beams, where they take a beam, they'll cut a semicircular, like a semicircle part. So when you open it, you can make it into a beam which is much deeper. Okay. So you will essentially get a profile like this. What you can do, you can actually make this into a much thinner profile by cutting it in the middle and moving it away. But what happens here is, you increase a property called moment of inertia, I. Have you heard of moment of inertia? Okay, it is a resistance to rotation basically. It's a rotation, it's a measure of resistance to rotation. So what happens here, you learn this in strength of materials, you will find that deflection of a beam is much lesser when I is more. Okay, please think of the example where you fold a paper into a V-shaped profile what has essentially happened, your I has increased. Your papers that V has a fixed amount of depth or thickness, correct? So that thickness is much lesser in a sheet of paper, but when you make it into a V shape, what happens? I increases. The value of I increases. Here also the same thing happens. The I value will be much higher because the element is made to go the extreme fibers. Okay, that is what we call as the extreme fibers is the top and bottom. Those are at a much greater distance, and also the dead weight is lesser. So you have much benefit when you are going to make this sort of a preform arrangement. Okay, so they'll essentially have pipes or sleeves which are inserted when the element is cast. Just before the concrete sets, they'll remove that cylinders, I mean that pipes, sleeves. Once you remove the sleeves, you'll be able to form these openings. This reduces the self weight and also increases I. When you increase I, deflection will come down. So because of that, this is superior. Okay. Now, if you are going to have a bolted connection, if you are going to bolt the beam to a column, you will have to have very less. You'll have to be very careful. If your dimension is wrong, you are not going to be able to fit it in position. Okay. So these are some of the places where we look at the we see how crucial or how important this dimensioning is going to be. Okay. Now this is a hollow core unit which is being used for this for this building construction. This is not a highway construction, this is a building construction. Okay. So now what are the drawbacks which we have when we use precast construction? You will have some drawbacks. We are talking about advantages. Now these are some of the drawbacks which you have when you are having a precast construction. You don't have much margin for errors. What do you mean by less margin for errors? When you lift or when you place or when you cast, there cannot be any, there can be very less errors. That tolerance what we talk about, no, whatever we put within the bracket, that will be dependent on, so you have to ensure that the tolerance is fully got. Second, of course, this is what I am talking about, the second point. Then, if you are not having repetitive elements, it is not going to make it's not going to be making a profit. What do you mean by repetitive elements? If you look at a channel which is like a drain, the same profile is there for maybe kilometers at length. Okay, so if you have a unit which is going to make a precast drain, it's going to be beneficial. If you are going to look at precast drain pipes, it is going to be beneficial because you are going to use so many thousands of meters of pipe using the same equipment, so it is going to be cheaper. However, if for some very rare cases, what they will do, they may precast because of the complexity of the shape, because of the tolerance requirements. They will feel that they cannot cast it in site. In fact, there is a dome which is used on top of the of a containment structure. I showed it in the construction management class. Probably in the other class I'll show you. What they do is the dome is cast at the bottom of the tank. Okay, the containment structure is nothing but a big tank. So then what they do is they lift the entire dome using air. They'll just blow air from the side walls and the entire dome is lifted up. Okay, if you are getting some internship in the next year, within the next year in Reliance J3 plant, Jamnagar, in Jamnagar they got third phase of expansion. If you go there, you will probably be seeing this in the cryogenic tank. Okay, L&T is the contractor there. Then another thing is you cannot, you need to ensure that you are having a the required transport facility. Sometimes the size of these units is very large. Okay, if it becomes too large, every road bridge which is on that route should be able to take the load of the truck. Every small bridge also you will have to ensure that it can take the truck. If the truck goes and a bridge breaks, it is not at all acceptable. So you will have to do a lot of planning. Then lifting requirements is very stringent. It means that the cranes which you use should be of the required capacity. Normally what happens is, when you extend the boom of a crane and try to lift an object, it is not the same as lifting it with a retracted boom. Okay, I am sure you will understand why. The moment is going to be very large, so the entire crane can topple if you are going to try to lift the full weight of what a crane is capable of lifting. Okay, so these are some of the drawbacks which we have about when we look at precast elements. Okay, in the next class we will be going in to look at some of the projects. Okay, so types of projects, that is in the next part of this unit. So we will start that from the next class. And designing of a precast unit requires a lot of intelligence. You have to know all these things, like how much weight is going to be lifted up and what are the points at which you can lift an element up. Then you will also have to be familiar with certain other design things, like there is something called block failure, shear failure. Sometimes it may just burst. Okay, there is something called bursting failure, depending on the type of system you are using for connection. So all these are things which I feel is slightly beyond what you have learned. So I am deliberately stopping at this point. With this introduction, whenever you are going to go for your advanced classes, please remember, when you are doing a strength of materials class, you will find that if you are going to apply loads in a particular way, bending moment is going to be constant throughout the structure. So here you can apply that same principle. How can I lift this so that bending moment is going to be uniform across this element? Things like this are to be learnt by you when you are going for your higher classes. So when we are talking about I am talking about a thing called moment of inertia. How does moment of inertia affect the deflection, and how if I am increasing the I can still safely reduce the, material is something else also which you can think about. Okay, so do you have anything which you would like to share about precast or prefabricated construction? Right. Now, there is a case where you got an inverted beam. Next time you go to our, this was taken in SJT or TT? SJT, yeah, this was in SJT. When you look out of SJT window, you will see beams which are inverted. They are upside down, not like what you have in this classroom. Okay. And I don't know how many of you went to see the construction which is happening behind our CTS office. Okay. Now, this is something which should have been interesting you, because all the principles of survey what you are studying is being applied there. Okay. Now, this is also construction materials and techniques. Okay. So, I am just trying to get a slight introduction to what you may be doing in site. What happens is, whenever you are having a drawing, the drawing has to be executed. Okay, if you are a site engineer, you are having a very good drawing and you are keeping on looking at it, it's not going to make any sense, right? You have to put it in the correct place and to the correct dimensions. So to this end, they have done it in the site. What happens is, in any construction drawing you will have grids. Okay, you will call one axis as ABC, the other perpendicular axis will go as 1, 2, 3. Okay, so in this case, can you see this red line over here? This is nothing but a string which has been stretched out on the grid line. The column and the beams are usually referred to with reference to the grid lines. Okay, so then what they have done, what they normally do is, they will take a plumb bob. You know what a plumb bob is, right? That thing which you drop down. So they will drop down from this rope and then they will transfer this point to the excavation, to the pit. Okay, so if you look at this point, they will have two stakes which are nothing but two reinforcement rods which they have tied exactly in the place where the string above is there. Okay, so then I am going to just go to the next slide. Can you see lines have been marked? This line denotes the position where the column is expected to come. This line denotes the place where the column is expected to come. So here and at these 2 points, they will keep a couple of stakes, and they will stretch another rope here or twine here. When you want to make this marking, how do you get these lines? They got quite a few lines. They got line 1, they got line 2, line 3, line 4. How do you make these lines? How do you draw these lines on cement? You are right. That is a very important way by which they do. They do it also for all the concrete cement works. Okay. So if you see any of the cement work, they will have some lines drawn. Why do you draw those lines? Why does the mason draw those lines? If you make a ramp on in the house, they make some lines. Have you noticed? Why do they do it? Huh? If you don't do it, the cement is a very long continuous thing, so it will start to crack. To avoid the cracks, we make those lines and keep it. In the same principle is applied here. When they make this cement paste, wherever they need the marking done, they will stretch a rope and then they will just lift it and drop it. With that force, when it goes and hits it, it will only hit it once and it will make these lines. So now the grid from the top portion has come to the lower part. Okay. Now here they can use either a rectangular template or something else to make these location of columns. Okay. Now can you see there is one more string which is going stretched in the perpendicular direction to give actually this grid. The center grid is marked by this string. Okay. So this is another thing. From the wall they have stretched it. This is the plan of the columns which are there. This is the plan of the columns which they have done. When you go to your senior classes, you will learn that this is called as an eccentric footing. Eccentric means it's not crazy. It is off the center of the footing pad. This bottom portion is called the footing pad. The rest of this place is the column. Okay, this is the place where the column is to come. So this is what they have marked essentially here. This is what they essentially marked. Little later here, please. Little later. Okay. So these are called pillars. On each of these pillars, you will have a neat cement paste done, and the string as it stretched, it is also made to make a mark. It will have both a horizontal and as well as a vertical mark. Why do they do this? Later on, when they move, okay, this place will not be accessible, the pillar which is beyond. So they will use this pillar to make subsequent marking in the site. Okay. See, this is called as a strap foundation. This beam which is going in the middle is called as a strap beam, and this is called as the reinforcement mat. The reinforcement mat is just tied up with a not exactly string, by binding wire. They call it binding wire. Okay. Now under the reinforcement mat, you will see. Okay, here it's not too clear. Fine. Under the reinforcement mat, you will have what is known as a cover block. Okay, cover block is nothing but a cement paste. They will make a cement paste, neat cement paste of very rich mortar. Then they will cut it like a birthday cake, and when it is wet, they will insert binding wire and keep it, so that they can tie it and they can keep the reinforcement away from the soil. Okay, reinforcement, if it's touching the soil, it is going to rust. Okay. Now, this is one of the important construction materials. This is called reinforcement steel or rebar. Rebar is of two kinds. The traditional mild steel reinforcement, and the other is the HYSD bars, high yield strength deformed bars, or torch steel bars. This is what you normally see now. After the introduction of torch steel, nobody goes for mild steel. What is torch steel? It is nothing but steel which is having some ribs on the surface. It is the way it is manufactured is different. Mild steel bars are they will be smooth. They will be just drawn into wires and kept. So the bond between, that is, bond is nothing but the sticky nature between cement paste and reinforcement is very less in mild steel. But reinforcement, the star steel will have that rib which makes it superior in the bond between steel and concrete. Now you see what these two men are doing. They are sitting and removing what is known as the mill scale and rust. Mill scale and rust is being removed by them. They are rubbing all the rust off the things. Why should rust not be there on the steel? If it is there, the bond between steel and concrete is reduced. Instead of sticking to steel, it's sticking to rust, which is just loosely touching. So we cannot afford to let that happen. So these people are removing the rust. So these are the see, this was used in the, if it's used in the beam, they are called stirrups. If it is used in a column, it's called as a tie. It's called as a column tie. In this case, it's all for the beams. This is the shuttering which is going to be placed. Okay, shuttering is the box which is made to keep the to get the concrete specified shape. And by the way, this is this is one of those containers. This container is being held is used for storage. Normally, if you are going to site, you'll have a little door and window on the other side. I'm sure you understand what I mean. Okay. This is called the shoe of the column. This is called as the shoe of the column. They'll make the foundation pad. After they make the foundation pad, they'll again have to make the marking for the location of column. Then they'll take this shoe, keep it, align it, and then they'll start the shuttering for column. In fact, if you go now, you'll be able to see them do this. Okay. And here is the cover block. I told about cover block, no? So these are the cover blocks. They are kept under the foundation mat so that there is space between the reinforcing rod and the soil. Okay. So this is some column bars have been kept into position. Here there is a scaffold. Why do you think the scaffold is there? This is called a scaffold. Whatever I am pointing is called scaffold. Why is the scaffold there? See, when they were doing these pipes, you know, the firefighting pipe, did you see the scaffolding? Why was it used? Sorry? So that people could climb up and do the work. Okay, then any other point? Okay, so this is the scaffolding. So if suppose you are going to make your put your shuttering later on and all that, you will need this scaffolding for going up the up safely, right? So this is the way, you know, remember those stirrups which you saw? This is where it is being put. Okay, if you find that the stirrups are very closely spaced, and also this is called as the main steel. If both are closely spaced, look, it's like your sieve, like what your mother uses for sieving the wheat, right? If suppose it's very close, your concrete cannot flow into the sieve, so that is into the beam. So that's something you have to be very careful as design engineers, and as site engineers. If you get a drawing like this, you should ensure that your grain size or your coarse aggregate size is smaller than the space which is available. Okay, then only you will be able to do the concreting. Fine. And one more thing is that, see, they use level only. In your survey lab, you use dumpy level. This is called as an automatic level. It's automatic only because it is having a compensating prism. Okay, so if the level is slightly off center also, the ray of light will be made to pass through the optic center of the telescope. The compensating prism will make sure that is done. So it is little faster than using a dumpy level. If you are going to use 3 operations or 4 operations to level a dumpy level, this will not require that many operations. So this is what they call as a reinforcement book, steel reinforcement book. So in this, if you see, they will keep the dia of rod, numbers and the length, so they can find out how much tons of steel is used. Okay. So the reason why we went through this is one of the things which is going to be like techniques of construction. Okay. So this is a cast in situ work. cast in situ work, they have been doing this to come to this level. They have been taking about 3 weeks. They have done they have taken 3 weeks to come to this. 3 weeks is 21 days. In 21 days in China, how many floors would they have completed by now? Quite a lot, right? 15 days they finished 30 stories. So 3 weeks, 21 days, 42 stories they may have finished. Okay. So this is the difference between casting in situ and precasting. Okay. So is there any doubt you have or anything you'd like to ask or share?